Hello folks, it's Mr. Neil here. In this video we're going to look at the testing topic within the Software Design and Development Unit for National 5 Computing Science. Once you've built the program, you then need to test it. And in the process of testing it, you will identify syntax, execution and logic errors, and you will use normal, exceptional and extreme data to help you do your testing. So let's have a look at the errors first. So when we're programming, errors can be categorized into three different types: syntax, execution and logic. So let's start with syntax errors. Syntax errors occur when you break the programming language. So you make a mistake within the way that you're writing the programming language. So for example, here in this Python code, I have missed the colon at the end of my if statement. I have then gone and tried to run my program, and my development environment has just stopped. It's not even run the program, and it's telling me there is a syntax error. So with syntax errors, you're unlikely to be able to run the program, and it's because you've broken a rule of the programming language. Execution errors occur when the program is running, and these will cause the program to stop abnormally. So here we've got two examples of an execution error. The first one is dividing by zero. Dividing by zero is a mathematical impossibility. So when it gets to this line here, average equals total divided by zero, it'll just crash. Your program will stop working and it will have no idea what it's doing. Likewise, if I've got two strings, so I've got the string Catherine and the string Janeway, and I try and times them together, well, you can't times text. So that is an execution error. Your program will get to that line there and just stop working. The third kind of error we can get is a logic error. And logic errors is where there's a problem with the way the program works. So your code is perfectly fine, there's no syntax errors, there's no execution errors. When you run the program will work, but it doesn't give you the expected result. Let's have a look at the example on the left. We are adding three numbers up, 36, 32, 42 and 47. And we then want to find the average of those four numbers, but we're dividing by 3, not 4. So that means the program will work, we just won't get the average that we expected. Let's look at an example on the right. We're getting the temperature of water from the keyboard, and we have to determine whether it's a gas, liquid or solid. So let's assume I take the temperature 100. So if 100 is greater than 100, well, that's not the case. Else if 100 greater than 0, well, it's greater than 0, and 100 less than 100, well, it's not less than 100, then else display solid. So if I enter 100, I'm going to get solid. But we know at 100 degrees, water is a gas. So that, in this case, our problem has a logic error. It works, but we don't get the result we expect. So with logic errors, we have to test our program to make sure it's working. So how do we test? Well, before we even consider running our program, we identify different kinds of data that we can use to test our program. So there are three different kinds of data. There's normal, extreme and exceptional. So normal is data that you'd expect your program to accept and you'd expect that it would work. Extreme is data at the ends of what is acceptable, and exceptional is data that your program should not work with. So if we take an example here, consider a program that will check if a dice roll is valid. So we're working on the assumption here that a dice can have a number between 1 and 6. An example of normal test data would be 2, and we'd expect that to be a valid number for a dice. 4 would be a valid number. Extreme is at the end of what is acceptable. So the lowest number I can throw is a 1, and the highest number I can throw is a 6. Exceptional is data that we don't think our program is going to work with. -2 is going to be not valid. 141 is not going to be valid. 2 is going to be not valid. Now that I've identified my data and I've written what I expect my program to show, I can then go to my program and enter those numbers. So if I enter if greater than or equal to 1 and less than 6, well, the number I've entered is 2, so that is valid. I've entered 4, that is going to be valid. 1 is valid because it is greater than 1 and less than 6. 6 is not valid because while it is greater than or equal to 1, it is not less than 6. So in this case here, my actual result doesn't match my expected result, so I need to go back to my code and then change it. Exceptional -2 doesn't match that criteria, so we're going to get not valid. 141 not valid. In our case, if I was to type in 2, I would get an error, and that's because my program's not expecting text, expecting numbers, and that would cause an execution error. Having gone through testing, you should now be able to describe and identify syntax, execution and logic errors, and be able to describe, identify and implement normal, extreme and exceptional test data.